In this very brief and short video, I will be explaining something about a few elements of culture. Namely, we will talk about symbols, signs, we'll talk about rituals, we'll talk about language, and then we will talk about sanctions. What we call symbol are found universally in every known human culture. The more a society is advanced, the more they focus on symbols. Human beings, through their evolution and in the course of their evolution, human beings have acquired a special way of conveying their meaning to others. And this conveying of meaning to others is essentially very important for the process of socialization and also for the process of institutionalization and for the maintenance of social systems at large. And what are symbols? Symbols are, according to John J. Missiones, symbols is something which stands for something else. I define symbols as a summary statement of a complex human experience. For example, you know that our flag stands for our country. But our country has a complex experiences, a complex history of creation, a very complex narrative, and our flag is meant to summarize this complex uh, experience of Pakistan as an independent country. We have majority of our flag's color reflects majority of Pakistan and its population, which is Muslim. So we have this green shade representing Muslim population, the white shade representing minorities of Pakistan, and then we have the star and the crescent on our flag. Now, even though this flag is a piece of cloth, but you actually know and know it very well that it's more than a piece of cloth. Flag is represents our pride. Flag represents us among the nations of this world. That is why our offices carry national flag of Pakistan and not anybody else's flag, not another country's flag. So you understand that symbol is something which summarizes a whole lot of experiences, and this is use of symbols is unique to human beings. Even though animal kingdom uses certain symbolic languages, though they are not complex and complicated, but when you will see human societies advancing, progressing, you will see their culture becomes more and more symbolic. You will see their language becoming more and more complex. And language will acquire new symbols, new signs. And these signs and symbols will be then taught to new generations of people so that they are easily socialized. Most of our culture is also symbolic, and this is an assumption of culture that it has to be a major chunk of our culture is usually symbolic. Now, what we call signs or symbols, they are made of two things. According to Swiss linguist Ferdinand, Ferdinand de Saussure, signs and symbols are of two types. Actually, one symbol has two underlying dimensions. Sign has a signifier and a signified. Signifier might be the sound image which is used. For example, when I use the sound tree, you get a mental image in your mind. You get an image of a usually a green a green plant, grown up plant, and this symbol, this mental dimension, this image is what he calls signified. Now, according to Ferdinand the relationship between signifier and the signified is usually arbitrary. What it means is that human beings select their signifier and signified uh, uh, usually according to no particular criterion, and they could have used another symbol or another sound image to represent a tree. However, once we have decided what sound image we have to use and what mental image, the signifier, the signified, is represented by the sound image, then we have to stick with this meaning. Even though with the passage of time, signs and symbols may acquire new meanings or potentially positive signs may acquire negative meaning, but the fact remains that culture is something which is shared. So usually people tend to share their signs and symbols, and they have a particular consensus about what a particular sign and symbol is representing in their life. And these signs and symbols are taught by one generation to the next generation. Another related element of culture is language. Almost all societies have acquired particular language, particular signs and symbols, combined together create a language. So language is nothing but a very lively, vivid combination of signs and sounds to communicate our messages to other people. Now, what I'm doing right at this moment is that I'm producing various signs and symbols, various sound images in your mind, which are related to what I'm saying, and that is why, and that is because you people understand what sound image to be attached with what words. So when we talk about language, it's a combination of signs and symbols which we use to produce and communicate our meaning. So language is a complex whole of signs and symbols. Now, there's another question, and it is very important as a question. The question is, how various societies maintain such an order that their individuals tend to follow a particular culture. Why we are bound to our culture, and that is through a mechanism of reward and punishment. Thus, to say, this mechanism of reward and punishment is found in every known human culture, and it is often related to norms, values, and beliefs. So, if you hold certain norms dear to your society, you must know that violation of these norms must be discouraged somehow or others. And that is what actually every society is doing. So, what are sanctions? Sanctions are the mechanisms of reward and punishment which are backing certain norms. So norms are backed by concepts of reward and punishment, and these mechanisms are called sanctions. Sanctions could be potentially very formal sanctions, and sanctions could be informal sanctions. What we call formal sanctions, they are backed by authority, they are backed by some legal status, and these sanctions are enacted or implemented by someone who has official authority to implement them. Judges implement certain sanctions in a formal way, and their sanctions are backed by law, which is a formal type of norm. And similarly, authority people, professors, lecturers, and policemen, law enforcement agencies, they use sanctions which are very, very formal sanctions. And when we talk about sanctions, we must understand that there might be sanctions which are not that formal. And these sanctions are implemented informally by people who are surrounding us. Informal sanctions include sanctions imposed on us by our biradari, in sanctions by people of our kin, our neighborhood, people of our caste, so people of our reference group. They don't use sanctions very formally, neither they have any rules to enact various sanctions. Uh, Various method to implement sanctions and control our behavior and make it conform to the expectations of our society include what we call mechanism of gossiping, mechanism of taunting,